you, Ann-Maree, for doing this with me. I can't wait to dive more on what we are going to talk about, even if I don't know what exactly, like I know, but I don't know where we are going, because I think it will be an amazing conversation.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to talk to you, and we'll see what comes out because, yeah, I mean, traditionally it's like midwives and anesthetists don't necessarily work on the same plane. Yeah, we kind of butt heads.
We want physiological birth and they want epidural.
But we are fighting the same fight. We are on the same team, so I'm loving it.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Do you want to introduce yourself, Ann-Maree? Because I usually let others introducing. I feel more authentic. So anything you want to share about you?
Yeah, cool. So I'm Ann-Maree. I guess my brand, my mission now is under the whole doctor. I trained as a conventional medicine doctor and worked in that system for about 14 years. And I specialized as an anesthesiologist, or as we say in Australia, an anaesthetist. And so I was in that world, and just to keep it in the vein of what we're talking about here, I actually really didn't enjoy obstetric work at all. There was something in me that it just repelled me. I found it just completely not my world. And it's interesting because I even did some time in Africa for 6 weeks because I felt my obstetric education in medical school was really lacking. Even to get a delivery, a normal delivery, and it was in hospital, of course, was very challenging. So I went to Kenya and I spent 6 weeks there, and that was where I sort of got my first impression of what obstetrics really is and what birthing really is. But again, it was only through the hospital lens. And through my journey, I've discovered that the medical system does not have all the answers. And so I basically went on my own journey of discovery and healing and got into yoga and meditation. I became an integrative health practitioner. I work predominantly with women on hormonal issues, burnout, detoxing, all the things. I had a yoga studio. And then finally, I decided to just pull the pin from medicine, and I left my anesthetic career entirely. I stepped out. I couldn't stay in both worlds anymore. It was just such a disconnect, and thought I need to step into my truth and my authentic work properly. But I still have all that incredible medical background in physiology, anatomy, pharmacology. It's also relevant. So now I'm trying to use that wisdom and knowledge to support women in looking for more natural alternatives and going back to how we used to do things when our bodies were more balanced, when we had less stress. And so that's the mission of my work now, is to sort of re-empower, re-educate, and guide women, one woman at a time, back to her own authentic journey, her own intuition, and trusting her body again, and all the gifts that this incredible feminine vessel gives us. So that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I relate with what you're saying, because I have a similar but different journey where I couldn't stand anymore to be in a hospital and see all that birth that, you know, as a midwife you study about physiology of birth, and then you work in a hospital and maybe you see once in a while that physiology exists. And I was asking myself, why is it that? So I want to ask you, what do you think, like, what does work and what doesn't work in the medical system? What did you realize in these years where you were in the medical system, in the hospital, working? Why things are not working, or what is that is not working? What is that is working? Let's start from there.
Okay. I think the greatest thing that I came to realize was the conventional or modern medical system is really based around control. First of all, it's about control. It comes directly from a belief of fear, of unsafety, that we can't trust our body and that we need to control it at every single possible junction. And that's a very masculine principle as well, is wanting to have this control. And part of that is that that's also incredibly disempowering. So people stop trusting themselves. They stop trusting their own guidance, and they basically outsource everything to a drug, to a doctor, to someone else. And even when those things, they get a sensation, people still get a feeling sometimes that, oh, this is, I'm not sure about this, this is not right, or they learn about all the side effects of something, but they still trust that system more than themselves. And I think this is a huge problem for us as humans, because we've completely disregarded our own sovereignty in our body, our own capacity for wisdom and knowledge that our body already gives us. And that's the problem that I saw in the system. People became overly reliant. We were the gods, we were put on pedestals, and I might spend 10 minutes with you. You've been in your body your whole life. What can I tell you? So where it comes to surgery, acute care, trauma, there is absolutely a role for modern medicine as it's practiced. But the problem is it's getting its little tendrils into areas of health and wellness that it just doesn't have a belonging in. But I feel sorry for the system, because also people are expecting that from the system. And that's where I'm seeing a lot of burnt out doctors, nurses, midwives, because they are no longer equipped to provide that empowerment to patients. They are just trying to do the work, follow the protocols, follow the rules, and not get burnt out and disengage themselves.
Yeah. And I feel like when I was working the last probably 6 months, I was working in the hospital as consultant midwife. I was feeling like that I was just in automatic modes. I wasn't able to be present with the patients, with the women, with the families, and with not even with myself, because I was so sucked in the system, sucked in the routine, that I was going kind of trauma response. No, I was just avoiding nullify my who I was, to respond to, to what was happening, and to many people around, to the routine of the hospital. And so I feel sorry, because many doctors, midwives, nurses are in this way. And I think there are consequences for our own health to be in this way.
Absolutely. Because the other issue is, when we're working from that place, the clients and patients, they become a number. They become, oh, the gallbladder in room 4. Oh, the woman that's failed to progress. What an awful word, in cubicle 3. Like, we just box them because it's easier. It's how our brains can cope. And then we lose all the creativity and individuality in healthcare. And I think that that's a huge disservice, because there's so much individual variation, and each person needs to be approached with their evolving journey through their experience. And that is, we no longer have the energy to do that, because we're in overwhelm in the system. And then we're having negative consequences for staff and for patients. Yeah. So it's not a good mix.
And yeah, I agree, absolutely agree. I could see it on myself too. I think you could see on yourself too. And
totally.
How do you I know for myself, because I experienced that, but how do you think in general, or maybe even from your experience, how do you take the leap of, okay, I have enough, I'm gonna quit and I'm gonna do something else? Where are the steps, if there are any, or what do you think a person might do if she realizes that?
Yeah, I think it really depends how far you're in the system. And I think for nurses and midwives as well, but even more so for doctors, because it's such a long journey, and we get programmed from the beginning to put our own needs aside. We don't eat well. We, show up super caffeinated. We stay overtime. We do shift work. We put our whole lives aside because we think that that's actually the right thing to do, and we deeply want to help people. So I think for me, I had to start really sidestepping gradually, because also I had built this idea of creating security for myself in my career. Like, oh, I will always be employed as a doctor. I will always have work. I'm doing good for society. You know, there was this belief system around it. And when I started seeing that I didn't fit in that model, it was like, well, I can either keep damaging myself and trying to stay here and having arguments with people at work, being in my director's office every week because I'd flown off and said something, you know, that was probably true, but wasn't received in the best way because I was cycling through burnout. So I sidestepped personally first. I saw that I needed healing. I needed to redefine who I was and meet myself again, because I'd become Ann-Maree, the medical student, Ann-Maree, the intern, Ann-Maree, the resident, Ann-Maree, the anesthetist, you know, and I was like, who's Ann-Maree anymore? And so I went through yoga. I did all of this extra learning for me, but then I realized I had to share it with other people. So when I was in clinic, I started telling people about CBD oil and supplements. And I started telling people to leave their GPs because their GPs were not serving them very well. And when I saw myself doing this more and more, I'm like, I can't stay here and keep doing this. I need to step out and do this. And for me, the final thing, I guess, was gratefully COVID and the pandemic, because finally I could no longer deny that I was in a system that was just not for me. The approach, the mentality, the overwhelming stress response by doctors who were, this was our moment. I was like, okay, this is my last bastion of hope in this profession because this is our big moment. And we were floundering. We were absolutely floundering. And that's when I really started to think, okay, this is not my place. I need to go and step out and go into the big wide world and see what is out there for me and trust my wisdom, trust myself and back myself. And for me, I had to leave Australia. That was a huge support for me because it was really putting a line saying, okay, this is your new life and this is your old life. And it made it easier. I think it would have been more challenging had I stayed in Australia and kept my studio going. It would have been more difficult. So all the pieces came together perfectly for me, but I think it's such an individual journey. But I encourage anyone out there that's feeling these little whispers, these little gut instincts, recognizing the damage they're doing to themselves in the system, not aligning with the style of work they're being forced to do in those systems, and starting to ask questions and starting to look for alternatives for themselves, because they're out there. And I think the more of us that step out of that model and start showing a different way, the healthier people are going to start to become, the more empowered people will start to become, because the system's broken.
Yeah, I agree. And when you were talking about, telling your clients, leave your GP, do that, I was thinking about me. I was doing similar things. Women were not supported like they wanted to have a VBAC at home or give birth at home in under certain condition. And I was always telling them, you can do it. Come on. If you trust your body, you can do it. But just quit the hospital. Don't go there. Don't do that. Because ultimately it's about trusting and taking responsibility back for ourselves, feeling the intuition. Because I think we are not used to, maybe women more, but in general, we are not used to actually, that is my intuition. That was it as well, what my gut feeling is telling me. I follow that, because how many times we follow the gut feeling and it's wrong? Probably never. It's always kind of right. Yeah. And we don't do it. Just few of us probably does that. So yeah, I think it's trusting is a big thing.
Yeah, and I think the trust and reconnection with our body needs to begin well before we're having a baby. And I think I saw that with a lot of women. Yeah. You know, they would go, oh, I'm pregnant now, I'm going to start doing yoga. It's like, that's awesome, but why weren't you doing it before? Yeah. Like, let's get that connection back before we're in the most powerful
Yeah.
experience you will ever have in the woman's body. You just think in 9 months you're going to be ready for that when you've been ignoring your body for the last 20 years or more? Like
Yeah.
that's the other piece.
But even processing big stuff, like processing big trauma or starting a journey of, you know, awareness with your body, yes, you can do it, I think, in pregnancy, of course, but I feel it can be very complex to do that, because there are many things that are happening in your body,
Yes. Yes.
and in your mind, in your emotions. So I'm not
Yes.
sure. Like, I know many women start doing that, but it's not that easy.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it would be
It would be
good.
the most challenging time. But I think it also shows that women, because we always look after everybody around us more than ourselves. We are wired to do that. And so it's like suddenly your body becomes really important because it's carrying another
Yeah.
little body that's growing. And it's like, that's beautiful. It's lovely that that awakening is happening, at least through that birth process and carrying a baby.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Um, I had a question about, okay, if someone doesn't leave the medical system, how do you think we can support nurses, midwives, doctors who work in the medical system and are stressed or burned out?
I mean, that's a big part of my work, but I think the first thing that has to happen is recognition of burnout, of the impacts of the
Mm.
work. And I think we got a little bit of a taste of that through the pandemic because the system was getting pushed so hard. And, you know, I think more and more, I heard about a lot more nurses leaving because during that time, the pressure that was already there just became at fever pitch. And the problem is, you know, I was working in a department, which was a really good department, actually. We had a sense around wellness, you know, but a lot of places will have these like wellness coordinators or they'll do some token thing here or there. But when a staff member steps out and says, actually, I'm in burnout, I need leave, I'm happy to take unpaid leave, there is no systems to support them. And if anything, particularly for doctors, you're then viewed as, well, you can't handle the
Weak.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are weak and you start to feel less as a healthcare worker, that I'm not cut out for this. And actually, the truth is, the ones that are more likely to fall victim to burnout, fatigue, trauma are the ones we want in the system because they're the ones that feel everything, that are actually keeping their hearts open to the work and not becoming robotic. So we need to support those more sensitive people more than ever because they're the ones that we need. But the problem is the system won't recognize that burnout even exists. The suicide rate in anaesthetists is still high. It's still growing. So this is the problem. The systems might be, they're like, yes, we acknowledge there's an issue. They do nothing to do anything about work hours, the shift work, the night shifts. We still had situations where nurses had nowhere to sleep during the night because you're not supposed to sleep. What a load of crap. We've got all the sleep research. You know, we are supposed to be sleeping at night. Let's support our healthcare workers in an evidence-based medicine way. And that's the thing. We say we practice evidence-based and we're not doing it with the staff. And so that's kind of why I stepped out as well, because I thought I can't help these people while I'm in this system because I can't give my full energy and capacity to this because I'm still in the system. But now I can bring everything I observed and experienced in those systems out to say, I'm here, I see you, I support you, and come and let's go through this together. And I can show you the tools, the strategies that worked for me. But there's not enough of me. You know, we need more of me and people like you that become mentors for people that may not be ready to leave the system, or even better, we can support them to stay there because we still need these really good people in the hospitals to do that work because it's going to be there. So it's about trying to find that balance between both and just giving the support when it's asked for
Yeah.
and allowing people to ask for it.
Yeah, in the UK, I don't know how many thousands of midwives left the system, I think, during the pandemic. because of the pressure. And that for me is a sign and it's not recognized. And I'm asking myself, what are they doing to change things? It's evident that they are quitting because they can't deal with the pressure, and they are all
Yeah.
burnt out and stressed. I was also mentoring a midwife that she was telling me, I spend my day when I'm off work sleeping, and I have no energy at all for my life. And I'm like, why do we need to live in this way? It's not worth it. So I
It's not
understand
worth
why
it.
people leave the system. I did too, because I thought, my life is worth it more than actually. I love women. I have passions for midwifery. I love what I do, but I can do it even in a different way. I can do
Yes.
managing my time, having time for me, having free time for me, doing other things and work, and yeah, and do the both things, living my life and my passion as a midwife, but in a different way. um
Totally.
yeah, I
Totally.
think it was so clear for me.
Yeah.
But it was also challenging to support people who feel stuck in there and they can't
Yeah.
leave because they have the mortgage, they have expenses to pay, bills to pay, and they don't want to take the leap and trust and do something else for themselves. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's also hard to see that. And
Definitely. But sometimes they're not ready at that moment, but you keep walking beside them. And I had a client who I started working with, I think it was 3 years or more ago now. And she was in nursing. And then I just heard recently that she's finally at least left where she was working because she was doing shift work. It wasn't serving her. So she's still a nurse. It's brilliant, but she's changed how she
yeah.
works. But that took years, and that's okay. That's okay. As long as we start realigning with how we're living, because how we show up at work is how we show up in life. And if you are spending your days off recovering from your work, that's an alarm bell. It's an absolute alarm bell. That can happen here and there. It's okay to have intense periods, but long term, that's not sustainable. And we shouldn't want that for ourselves or our kids. So why perpetuate a model that is necessitating that? It's not good. It's not what we're here for. It's not what
Yeah,
we're here
definitely.
for.
um Maybe another questions about something different or related. How do you think we can take responsibility for our health? So not only in the not only in the birthing in the childbirth, but in for our health in general. What it means for you to take responsibility and not having someone else to tell me you have this, you need to take this drug. But actually
Exactly.
feeling, our body, and understanding our body, have been connected with our inner knowing. How do you think we can, do that?
That's a great question because the answer is kind of in the question. We need to take responsibility. And I was saying this the other day because everyone is looking for the solution, the 6 steps, the 10 steps, like tell me what to do. It's like, no, because at some point I'm not going to be there. And so you have to own all of this yourself at some level. And so taking responsibility is treating your vessel as gold and understanding that it's not stagnant. There is nothing at all in life, in biology, that is stagnant. So nor is this. So what we have to do is constantly reconnect with our body in every moment. What am I feeling today, particularly for women? And looking at our cyclical nature, it's easier for us in a way. We have this beautiful innate cycle in us. So that is teaching us that nothing is stagnant. What is working for you now will not work for you in the same way in maybe 6 months, 6 years. So it's constantly evolving your responsibility and how you respond to your body. And so that's what I say to people. It's not a destination. It's a journey. I am still changing how I am responsible with my own health and wellness because when I was working in the system before, I had to be strict with myself, because if I want to stay in that system, there was no wiggle room in my health and wellness regime. I was detoxing every month. I was having high-end supplements every single day. I was investing money to go to retreats to literally refuel and recharge myself. And when I came to Italy and I left that system and I didn't have my, supplement powder in my smoothie every day, and I started reflecting and going, but wait a minute, I feel really good. My energy is really good. And I've had people say to me since I've left, Ann-Maree, you look amazing. Like, you look so healthy and happy. And I'm like, yeah. And ironically, I haven't done a detox in 2 years. I'm drinking more wine than I did before, but I'm in Italy. I've removed myself from a toxic environment into something that is aligning with me every day. And I can listen to my body, respect her rhythms, honor her rhythms, and give her what she needs when she needs it, and nothing more and nothing less. And I'm not perfect, and none of us should aim for perfection, because this is nature and biology, and she's also imperfect, particularly if we try to control. We have to have a degree of trust. And I think the main key to moving back to this is starting to listen to ourselves again. Do less, be more. We actually need to just be in our bodies more, tune into our bodies more, particularly as women. Because if you're stuck here in all the, oh, I need to put these supplements in my smoothie, and I need to, book these appointments for the chiro and my yoga class, and that's just outsourcing it all again. And you're avoiding your responsibility and your work and you showing up. And it's a daily practice. You have to keep showing up over and over.
Or work many hours and go back home exhausted, and you don't have time to.
And then you don't, exactly. And then for me, it's easier to look after myself now. And, perhaps you might step out of work and you're going to earn less. But I'm telling you, what's the cost of your health, your longevity, and you will find that you will have much more fulfillment, maybe with less income, when your body, your health, your wellness, your energy is where it actually can be at its full potential, rather than constantly being undermined in, a toxic work environment with bad culture that is disempowering its staff and its patients.
Yeah, and there are so many solutions to that. It's not that if you quit, you don't have like any opportunity. I feel that we are used to not to be in that role position and in that comfort zone. So sometimes for people, it's it's easy to be, oh, this is what I'm meant to be.
Oh, of
This is what I'm
course.
meant to do.
Of course.
And I
Because
feel like, yeah.
we've grown up being told what to do.
Yeah.
Our parents tell us what to do, then the schools tell us what to do, then the university tells us what to do. Of course, we go into employment that does everything for us and tells us what to do. Show up at this time. This is when your break is. This is when you can have a holiday. No way.
And also, I feel the value of, for example, a salary is actually not exactly the value what what your value is, because who are they to tell me what is my value? And even for midwife, I was always upset because I'm like, I know that I do more, and I know that this is not, my value. There is no value because I do it with all my heart. And for me, being there when actually, and yeah, as you said, I was told, they were telling me what to do and blah, 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 my lifestyle, etc., my rhythm. And I was even valued less than I think I am. And now that I'm, self-employed, actually I choose the value that I put in my work, in myself. And it's so empowering. It's so empowering.
Yes, but the step that we all need to make is trust. And I think so many of us have forgotten how to trust ourselves. We just don't recognize that the most important thing is trust in ourselves. When you start to rebuild that relationship, you start to be able to move out and go, wow, I really could just look after myself maybe and not have to be employed by someone, create my own hours, create my own work. And now more than ever, with the capacity of the internet, of Zoom, of social media, like it's a free for all. Honestly,
Yeah.
you can get out there and you can take what you've already done. It's not like you're throwing it in the garbage. It is still of value because there's only one you, and you can bring your full self out into the world in whatever way that really lights you up. And that's what's going to light other people up. And that's what our mission should be as humans, lighting each other up. I
Yeah.
nearly said a swear
Beautiful.
word, but I won't.
um, since you are, in Italy, immersed in nature, I would love to ask you, what does nature do for you?
Oh, it's funny because I reflected now more and more back when I was a kid, like little moments, and some of my most profound memories of my childhood were all nature related. I would be like playing out in the rain in northern Queensland. I was always in water. I was riding my bike through rainforests. Like these are my big memories. And I went into a way of being where I was indoors most of the time.
Mm.
I was at a desk. I was in an operating theater, even worse, with no natural light. And I was craving that connection. So I might go to the beach and get a little bit of a hit. But until I moved to Italy and I could really be with this earth, because there is something very special about this land. There's special things in Australia too, but if you're in a city, you can't sense it. But Italy, there is an energy here. And particularly in Puglia, with these thousands of year old olive trees that have just lived through so much. I can get so much nourishment from being out in that environment, having my feet on the earth, being in the ocean here, getting all those minerals because we are water too. And more being able to see the moon, because as women, we are absolutely connected to the lunar cycle, whether we recognize it or not. When you start to recognize it, and even just the practice of acknowledging the full moon and the new moon every month, which is one of the things I do in my membership because I think it's so powerful. If that's all you do as a woman, that's a really good beginning because you're acknowledging nature and your connection to your feminine energy and cyclical living. And it also takes the pressure off because we are like the earth. We are like nature. We cycle as well. So we are aiming for this perfection destination and we're supposed to cycle. We are supposed to life, death, life cycle. We are supposed to go through our seasons. And I think that nature reminds us of that every single day. So I no longer seek perfection for myself. I am kinder to myself. I trust that if something is difficult, summer is going to come again, guaranteed. And that is my connection with nature, that she reminds me of that. And I feel that I'm so much more respectful of my body now that I can draw that connection with nature and my body together so much more. I'm realizing that we're one. And I think it's a huge lesson in our world right now that it's not an accident that our earth, our planet is in the situation she is in, and the feminine is in the suppression that she is in. We are one and the same. And so if we start to heal women, to uplift women, to re-empower women, we're going to be able to start healing this planet as well, because it's through women that we're going to be able to do that, because we're connected. That's the feminine energy. That's the creative energy of nature and the feminine.
I also say healing birth, healing earth, because
I love that.
when we birth, but not even, babies, projects, wherever we are birthing, actually we are connected to ourselves because we follow our intuitions, our instincts, our bodies. So and so if we do that, then as you said, we heal earth. But if we
Yes.
are controlled and with this distortion of the masculine energy, and we have to control birth, we have to control women,
Yeah.
then we are not we are going nowhere.
Yes, absolutely. And I think one of the beautiful things that we see when we bring nature and birth together is birthing in water. And I watched this incredibly powerful documentary of women birthing in the Black Sea. And it just makes so much sense. And we know, even through the anesthetic world, that water is an amazing analgesic in labor. We will acknowledge that.
Yeah.
But it's seen as woo-woo. And it's like, it's not woo-woo. Like, this is our natural connection to these elements. We should be using that and harnessing that rather than dismissing it.
Yeah. And how beautiful that when we slow down, when we step back and we slow down and we connect to nature and we take responsibility back and we take ownership and of our bodies and our decision, that actually life takes completely another direction. It's, I feel it's more, has more meaning, like it's worth to live. And you are connected with the present moment rather than projecting in the future. Or so I feel it's, yeah, it's so beautiful that when you slow down and step back, actually, wow, life is amazing, beautiful.
That's right. Because honestly, I really believe that life is just waiting for us.
Yeah.
It's just waiting for us to just pause and go, okay, I'm here. And then life goes, oh, great, nice to meet you. Let's actually get things started. You know, you're so busy in the doing and in these places, and you're missing out. You're not connected. And life is very patient. So it will be there when you're ready, but don't take too much time. Don't waste too much time, because it's amazing.
Yeah, beautiful. I have a question related with midwifery, maybe a midwife question. When you were involved in, midwifery, obstetric, and providing epidural to women in birth, what were you thinking when you were?
Honestly, as you started this question, like, I can literally feel my whole body having a response to this question. Ooh. Okay, I must admit, at first, I was terrified to learn epidurals and spinal anesthesia because it's, it's scary. You're literally dealing with women's backs, their spine, their vertebrae. But I will never forget my first couple of epidurals, particularly independently. Once I, was good enough to be independent, you walk out of that room and you feel like a superstar. You feel like an absolute superstar because you've just made an immediate difference to that woman. But that's the problem. We walk out of that room and we don't really understand what might go on after that as a consequence of that epidural, such as slowing down her labor, impairing her ability to push. So I never recognized that because I wasn't there until I would be called on the same shift. She's failed to progress. We need to convert to section. And then I was like, oh, great. Thank God she's got an epidural, says every anesthetist who gets called for an emergency section. Because it's like, good, we can top up the epidural, hopefully, because it's not an ideal solution for a cesarean section. A spinal is a better anesthetic. But for me, I started resenting epidurals because the energy around it was the woman was in victim mode the minute I walked in the door. I was like not the hero, I was the last resource, and usually something that she had not wanted to do, that she had decided in her birth plan that she wanted a natural delivery, that she didn't want intervention. So to walk into a space where the midwife is disappointed that you're there, usually the woman is disappointed that you're there, the partner is probably too delirious to care and just wants it all over by now. I just felt disempowered in participating in that system. That being said, when we were really needed, I was so grateful for the skills that I had in order to relieve that suffering and pain when it was needed. But I feel now, reflecting back, that I used to more get a sense of, is this really necessary? And I think when I was in Fiji, I worked in Fiji for 3 months and they had no epidural service. And I was like, woohoo, I don't want to do epidurals anyway. And it was so beautiful because we hardly got called for anything. There weren't that many sections in Fiji because in Suva, they also weren't doing epidurals. And, I started going, I couldn't believe they didn't have an epidural service. I actually didn't think a hospital could deliver babies without one. And then I saw it
Wow.
just working in the background. The anaesthetists were rarely called for cesareans for anything. And I started, thinking, wow, I don't know if all these epidurals are really that great. So yeah, I was just more than anything relieved to not be doing them anymore. The short gain of going, yes, I'm a big hero and this woman is now pain free and she wants to name her baby after me, that ended for me very quickly. I guess I don't have a very solid ego, so those sorts of things don't tend to sort of stick. I start seeing the human behind it all and just going, not sure about this. Something was off. And now I think back to the midwives, and so many of them, I think a lot of it is frustration with them going into an incredibly powerful tradition
Yeah.
and then becoming disempowered, having to tick boxes in a medical model and deliver babies that way. And I think reflecting back, I see that a lot of midwives probably deeply feel that, even if they're not actually necessarily conscious of it in the
Yeah.
work they're doing now in the hospitals. Yeah.
First of all, I'm amazed to hear this because when I talk with anesthetists, and I remember they were coming to the room. I don't have big experience with epidurals because I worked many years in Africa. It doesn't exist in Africa.
Yeah.
And I have experience in the UK when I was doing my rotation in a birthing room. And when the anesthetist was coming, it was like, oh, epidurals are great. She was, he or she was telling to the woman. And me, I was like, in the like completely frozen because I like we know what as you were saying, that traditional authentic midwifery, most of the time you don't need it. I can understand when you have syntocinon, so oxytocin or
Yes.
induction, because the labor is more painful. uh,
Totally.
the contractions are more painful, they're not
Yes.
your hormones. So
Exactly.
I can understand that. I think there is a role on epidural in that, but if you step back, is that induction really necessary or not? Like, why are we
Exactly.
confusing women? So
And that's a really good point that you raise, because I think a lot of women might not recognize that they are literally part of a cascade of intervention. Because if you're not fitting a time model in the hospital system, that's when they go, oh, let's get Synto started. Let's start
yeah,
some Synto. And women don't recognize that is going to be a completely artificial hormone that's going to drive their labor way stronger than their body will naturally do that,
yeah,
because the body will pace itself appropriately. Our bodies are incredibly intelligent. You override that with pharmacology, there's a consequence to that. That's more pain. That's epidural. So this is the issue, is that once you say yes to one thing, then often all the other things are
yeah.
going to follow on because they become natural consequences of this cascade.
And we know now that there are consequences actually for the mothers and the baby. For example, epidural after birth, there is more. It's more challenging to latch the baby on the breast because of these hormones. You kind of nullify the hormones of the mothers because
Yes.
actually with induction, with epidural, with other chemical substance, you actually interfere. So
Yes.
and we don't know in the future. We kind of know there are now many studies that says that how you birth impacts on your life, the woman's life, and the baby's life.
Yeah.
So I really I don't know, like I for me it feels scary that your body can change if you and your body, but also your baby's development life can actually be impacted by all but how you what you choose for your
Yes.
birth, your synthetic hormones that you put in your body. It's like a little bit like pills. I'm not against, totally against, but it's the same thing. Contraceptive, you add hormones to your body knows how what to do. and actually there are consequences, side effects.
Of
So,
course.
and I always ask myself, what's going to happen in 10, 15 years inside my body if I accept to take hormones, or whatever I do in during birth. So I always think about that, and they feel scary to me, honestly.
Yes, yeah, because a lot of the time those questions aren't asked or considered. We're thinking about, well, I need this right now. We're not considering, well, how is this going to impact? Am I going to smell different to my baby when my baby comes out because I've got all of these
Mm.
chemicals now in my body? There's so many potential issues, and we look at trying to make birthing safer. And I really believe that the degree of intervention in what is an incredibly natural process that we have been doing since we have been walking this planet is only going to cause more and more problems, because the levels of intervention are now actually not providing additional benefit. The morbidity and mortality of women birthing in America is one of the worst on the planet. I was shocked when I learned this
Yeah,
relatively recently, because you're like, well, they have a lot of hospitalized birth. That's the safest, right? It's tipping now. We've
yeah,
gone too far. And we now actually have midwives and doctors who are unskilled. All they're skilled in is cesarean section, because there's not enough natural, normal
yeah,
deliveries that doctors are seeing, that midwives are experiencing, for us to actually maintain that skill level. So we get scared, we get uncomfortable. It's like, oh, we need to put her in a box as quickly as
mm,
possible. This is the timeline, syntocinon, epidural, hopefully she'll deliver, maybe cesarean section,
and
or even worse, scheduled cesarean section.
yeah, elective, yeah. And it's disappointing for my profession, because I think midwives are the ones that, it's not midwives, but kind of represent that ancient wisdom
Yeah.
of, connecting with with the body, knowing, inner wisdom. And now we've become nurses basically, and not
Yes.
just to say that nurses is bad or wrong. I love nurses, but it's just to say that it's kind of a checklist. And actually this is not midwifery. Midwifery is be with the women, and
Yes.
accompanying them in their choices, not choosing for them, but not manipulating or doing
Yes.
all this I told you, blah, 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 but actually be with them. um
Yes. I think something that I'd like to say as well, that's just come up with what you're saying, is when you mentioned the nurses and midwives thing, it's just come back to my mind, because really the complexity of the mothers was starting to get ridiculous in the hospital system. We've started to, with the technology that's available, we are now allowing bodies that probably wouldn't naturally fall pregnant to carry a pregnancy and birth, and maybe do that over and over. So the complexity of the mother's physiology, the sometimes poor state of the mother's physiology because she's not been healthy, coming into the system, is then skewing how the system responds to all women,
yeah,
because we are seeing these high risk people in far too many numbers that are needing more and more interventions, and it's kind of driving that fear cycle. I'm thinking back to my last years of doing obstetric work. We were dealing with so much more morbid obesity, so much more. Those mothers are complex
yeah,
in labor, in delivery. We know that they are going to have more problems, but we're not actually seeing healthy women anymore as much as we used to. And I think that's the other challenge on the system, is that it's artificially creating this push to intervention, because there is a growing number of women that may need it, but then that is disservicing healthy, fit women who are then pulled in that system and shoved into that same model, which they don't need.
yeah, I completely agree. Do you think that is because um first we don't do anything before pregnancy, and at least for me, but also because there is like the system doesn't really offer an holistic care,
Yeah.
like it's very compartment, how you say, compart something lies.
Compartmentalized. Yeah,
Lies,
it's a tricky one.
exactly. And we just see section of our body, but we don't
Yes,
see all.
exactly. Exactly. I think it comes back to that earlier question that you drew on around responsibility, and that, you know, you can't just get away with suddenly giving a shit about your body when it's carrying a baby. It needs to start earlier than that. And I think, you know, we don't have these conversations with people.
Mm.
We're not having these conversations with people. I remember in Australia, it was ridiculous. I think it was in 2019 sometime, we were told as doctors that we were no longer allowed to use the term obese because it was hurting people's feelings. And I'm like, but it's a medical diagnosis. Like, this is a medical term. And so we're kind of at this point where we're almost tiptoeing around people, but then people need to take that ownership of their own health and wellness. And I really do believe it needs to start before you're having your baby.
Yeah,
Or at worst, it needs to start the moment that you recognize that you're pregnant, and you need to do your work, and you need to do
yeah.
it consistently and solidly. Or that, you know, the system is there for you, but what a shame that you have to go there, because it's a shame for you, it's a shame for your baby. But you know, it doesn't need to be that way. If you are really in commune with your body and really treating it like this incredible, valuable vessel that it is, day in and day out, nourishing it, respecting it, giving it rest, giving it pleasure, giving it variety, what do you think
And
it's going to do for you when you really
yeah,
need it?
and also maybe here we open a another big chapter. But what my mentor and teacher Gabor Mate always says is that trauma, stress create inflammation in our bodies, and it
Completely.
create break our bodies and create diseases. So I'm thinking also, you know, our families, the history of the story of our family, the story of the women of our lineage, and how the trauma is passed on other women, other people.
Yeah,
And um and the fact that, you know, obesity, hypertension, and some other disease, many other diseases are linked actually to trauma, stress,
exactly.
and I think even consider that, and it's something that made at least for me, my experience is something that the medical system doesn't take into account, and that not many people know about it. We think that there is something wrong in our bodies, so that's why we get sick. That our body, you know, can damage easily, but actually, you know, if you look in an holistic way, considering
Yes,
also psychologically, emotionally, we first of all we can heal that, but also just to say that all these long-term disease and chronic disease, um, they can also come from trauma and story of your
absolutely.
family, and to look at,
Absolutely.
to have the courage and the curiosity to look at them before, you know, going into pregnancy, for example, and that becomes pathological, and then you need to
Yes.
have intervention, blah blah blah. And just, yeah, step back and consider that and integrate that in the medical system. I think it's something that we don't do, and it's,
Yeah, because, you know, this is getting recognized though at multiple levels. You know, at the scientific level, it's epigenetics.
yeah,
You know, if you look at the genes, we're 99.9% the same as a chimpanzee. So it's like, well, wait a minute, what are we missing here? There's something missing. So then we've grown that knowledge, and epigenetics is vital to how we actually approach individual healthcare now. You have control over which genes switch off and on. You can sit there with your victim story of, oh, my family has all cancer all the way through, we all get diabetes. You don't have to propagate
yeah,
that ongoing. You have the capacity to turn those genes off and on by the choices that you make every single day. And you may be more prone. So therefore you have to be really, really careful. Someone else might be a little bit more genetically blessed. They can play around a little bit more, but that's the only real difference. And then energetically, you're absolutely right. Samskaras are like the energetic traumas that we're carrying, and they can be generational. Absolutely. This is from yoga philosophy. So we need to heal all these aspects and take it from multiple layers. It's not just one thing. But that's great news, because that's really empowering for people, because it means that not one story is correct. You can approach this from so many different levels and take your own health and wellness into your own hands and really approach it in an individual way. Heal your family traumas, go back through what you may be carrying. You know, mitochondrial DNA, it's inherited from our mother. What's the mitochondria in the human body? It's our energy systems, literally our little energy cells. We only get those from our mother. What are we carrying through that maternal line? You know, there's so much that we don't fully understand, but there's so many clues that we can start to follow those little threads and really connect with that wisdom and the different knowledge that's out there. And that's what we have available to us now in the world, is so many different ways of connecting with this information for our own journey and making it really individual for us. And it doesn't have to be that that's your story for the rest of your life, that you have diabetes, you have hypertension. It doesn't
Or
need to
that
stay
you
that way.
are diabetes, or you are depressed,
Yes,
you're
yes,
not.
yes. This system is designed to
Yeah.
be healthy. It works very hard for homeostasis. So a lot of those consequences are your body trying to get you back to balance. So you have to get to that
Yeah.
underlying cause. They're just the body flying off problems saying, hey, we've got an issue here. We are out of balance. Address it.
I love this conversation. Is there anything else that we could, I think we could go on and on and on and on, but there is anything else that you want to share before closing?
I don't think so. I've got to trust that this is perfect. Like, I think, you know, maybe later I'll be just like, oh, but we can do part two.
Yeah.
We can do part two. This
Yeah.
has been so good.
Yes, for me too. I love this conversation, and I think they're so important for everyone. Thank you
Totally.
for being for being here with me, and
Oh, it's been a
I
pleasure.
can't wait for part two.
We'll get it scheduled. We'll,
Yes.
we'll do it close to a full moon again, because I think that's been the other fun thing, is that we've been connecting so close to this super full moon. Very
Yes.
eager.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.